Hello. Um, I'm Sandra Organ Solís, and I'm here talking with Pastor Jonafa Banbury of the Dunbar Heritage Center. And she's going to tell you a little bit about the programs there and a little bit about herself.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all for having me. Thank you, Sandra, for inviting me. I'm, like she said, I'm Pastor Jonafa Banbury. I'm the secretary of the Dunbar Heritage Association, and it's based out of San Marcos. It's an organization that was started by Harvey Miller since 1999, but he's had variations of the organization and the work that he did in the San Marcos area since the 60s and the early 70s. Um, Through his work, um, was responsible for resurrecting Juneteenth celebrations, MLK celebrations, and celebrating Black history. He put on pageants and scholarships for people in the Black community, and he was just a stalwart and a staple in the Black community. But he advocated for everyone. So through him and his efforts, which he is actually my grandfather-in-law, he's my husband's grandfather. He started the Dunbar Heritage Association for the purpose of advocating and bringing awareness to what he calls, three of the major Black cultural celebrations, which is MLK, Black History Month, and Juneteenth. So I serve as the secretary for that organization. So I'm usually like the frontline person for that. But because I'm a pastor, low key, they kind of thrust me into the spotlight a lot of times for speaking and for, talking on behalf of the organization. So, but I don't mind. I enjoy it. So that's who I am, and that's what I'm involved with right now. Currently, the Dunbar Heritage Association is not operating out of a particular building, but the reason why we are named the Dunbar Heritage Association has a lot to do with the Dunbar district in San Marcos. And it's the historically Black area of San Marcos, which runs along Center Street, MLK, the intersection of LBJ, Guadalupe, and those areas going back towards that area, the Mitchell Street. And it was the place where a lot of Black businesses existed throughout the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Um, so we have our name based on the district that is the historical Black district of the San Marcos area.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe you can just talk to us about what brought you to this area, besides, I guess, your husband, and what your experience has been like living in this Hayes County.
And my experience here, coming from the Houston metro area, it was a culture shock for me because I came from an area where it was a lot of Black people. It was predominantly Black, a lot more than it is now. My community was Black. I had Black teachers. I had, my neighborhood was Black. The people in the stores. I mean, everywhere I went, it was Black. And of course, there was a mixture, but there was just so many more Black people, and we had our own community. And activities and culture. So I was immersed in around my own people, but coming here, it was completely the opposite. So I did experience a culture shock coming here. Now, mind you, I will say that, for the most part, people here are friendly. People will talk to you in the grocery store and just strike up a conversation. People say hello. It's a nice area. It's a quaint area. The scenery is beautiful. I love the river. There's just so many things about this area that are appealing, and it led me to want to stay here. But I have to be honest and say that it was, I had to do some adapting and learning to find culture or create my own, recreate, tidbits of my own culture or go home, for some of the activities that I wanted. And then what helped is that my husband's from this area and he has family here in this area. So I was able to, still feel that I was a part of my community, but it's few and far in between. Having raised children here, some of my experiences, I would say that I probably experienced racism uh, more so in encountering issues through the school district uh, that I didn't necessarily experience back home where I grew up. And so my oldest son, who's now, oh gosh, how old is he? He will probably be mad if I forget. He's 25 going on 26 in this year. But when he was in like kindergarten or first grade, I remember that he had a little friend, and she was a little white girl, and they were thick as thieves. You know, if you saw one, you saw the other. And but by the time the school year was almost over, she told him that she could no longer play with him because he was the N word. So, and she said that her dad told her that. And so I'm suspecting that, all along throughout the year, they probably didn't know that he was a little black boy. And once they found out, so it's like that was really heartbreaking for me because I never had that experience growing up within my own community. But that was very early on that I had that experience with him. And then I did notice a difference in the way that he was treated at school. I had to go to the school all the time and advocate for him on his behalf. I said all that to say that it has been a struggle. It wasn't until we moved to the Atlanta metro area for about 2 years with my two oldest children, felt like they finally belonged because there was a great mixture and there was more black children there, and so they had a different experience. And then when they came back, they were kind of disillusioned at having to come back to this area, and they would literally be the only students in their class. So it's been a constant fight of feeling like I had to advocate for my kids. So in the school system, I think I've actually experienced more bias, more racism, um, more discrimination in different forms, sometimes subtle. Um, and so, you kind of have to vet the process out to be, to wonder and make sure, am I seeing what I'm thinking I'm seeing? But there's just something, within you that lets you know that they are being treated differently because of the color of their skin. So, like I said, there's been a lot of positives as to the reason why we've stayed. We have family here. I've built, roots here. I'm part of the church community here. But I have to say that it has been a struggle in a way that it wasn't. And my children have a completely different experience growing up than I had growing up.
And so would you say that mainly your ministry is to a Black community? Do you have any white people or of any other ethnic group in your ministry or that come to those?
No, well, no, typically I have ministered primarily within the Black community and the Latino community. So I have my ministry, when I tell you it's small, it's like 10 people or less. But because I'm not encumbered with a lot of the overhead and the oversight of a major ministry. It gives me freedom to be able to move in and out of different circles. So, but primarily I have been within the Black and Brown community. That's who calls on me and calls on my gifts, and my teaching. But it's been really just kind of by default that has been the case. Not intentionally, but it's just kind of been by default. But, one thing I will say is that I do advocate for Black people because, like I said, it's such a small number of us here. So the work that I do typically tends to be within the Black community. I'm advocating for the Black community. Um, but I do fellowship in other spaces as well. So I guess that answers that question.
Yeah. So, just to kind of finish up, maybe you can tell us a little bit about some of the things that are upcoming for Black History Month, and Martin Luther King Day that the Dunbar Heritage Association is doing.
Awesome. So I'm pre-recorded here with Sandra today because we have an event for MLK coming up on Sunday. We're having a private wreath laying ceremony in honor of Dr. King, and we're keeping it private and closed because it's by invitation only because we're trying to keep the spread of COVID-19 down. But that's going to be aired on the following day on MLK Day. We're going to have a virtual celebration. You will get a chance to see the wreath laying ceremony. It's going to start at 11 a.m. on the Dunbar Heritage Association's Facebook page. And you can find us by typing in at Dunbar Heritage in the Facebook search bar. It's going to start at 11. It's going to be virtual. So you'll get a chance to see that. We do have a guest speaker. It's going to be Pastor Darius Todd of Abundant Life Christian Church. We're going to have a vocalist that will sing Lift Every Voice, which is the Black National Anthem. We possibly have a gospel choir that's going to come in, some reflections. We have a statement from Representative Lloyd Doggett. So we just have some cool things that we have lined up. It'll probably be about an hour, hour and a half virtual celebration, which is typically how long it lasts when we have it in person.
There, but I just wanted to give people an opportunity to know that that was going on. So that's the one way you can celebrate Martin Luther King Day tomorrow, which is when this will be aired.
Yeah, on the 18th.
Yes, and then your series, which you'll be reprising this year.
Yes. So we have the Dunbar Heritage Association has two things we're doing in the month of February. So I'm going to go to the one on the 28th that you just referenced. It's called Celebrating Our Heritage. So instead of heritage, it's heritage. Isn't that clever? Anyway, so we're going to have that panel discussion on February 28th, and we're going to talk about the beauty and the complexity of Black hair and how it's been politicized. And I know that there's been a lot of recent events that have come up in the news, and even there's legislation moving on from different states that is seeking to not decriminalize Black hair, but seeking to make it illegal to discriminate on the basis of someone's hair texture. So, that's become a huge thing in recent years, but this discussion that we're having is going back in history and looking at what that is just one of the many ways that Black bodies have been regulated and discriminated against is through our hair. And that's still continuing today. And it's mind blowing to think about, but it is. But we also, not only just looking at it from a historical point of view, we want to celebrate our hair as well. And we're going to have panelists, which you're going to be one of those, just talking about our experiences, talking about our hair, and the different ways that the body politics and how it shapes your identity and all of those things. So that's going to be on February 28th. And for more information about specific times, you can go to our Facebook page as well to see the events. We'll have the events posted there with all of the details, the times.
Good. So, well, thank you so much for speaking with us today. And if I get any questions, I'll send them your way. But
Yeah.
it's great to have some opportunities to celebrate Black History Month that your Heritage Society puts forward to the community. And we appreciate all the work that you're doing to be an advocate for Black people in our community. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you so much for all that you do. Appreciate it.
All right.